Hello there people, Vestin here with another Legends of Runeterra match, this time playing Piltover&Zaun coupled with Freljord, with heroes Jinx and Braum. My opponent has combined Piltover&Zaun with Noxus, with heroes Katarina, Draven and a Jinx of his very own. Despite the fact that I'm going to act second, I really want to take the board by a storm. The Lonely Poro, of course, can be treated as a 2-drop, because it gives you another 1-drop, thus constitutes 2 1-drops adding up to 2, whereas Jury Rig can be played on turn 1 with no adverse effects. My opponent plays Jury Rig of his very own. Notably, you don't necessarily want to play it, but if you have it you might as well. You want to keep it and wait for a card that discards things, thus you get the Scuttler for free alongside something else, alongside some other more desirable effect. For instance, potentially Jinx leveling up. However, more notably, as far as the cards I have are concerned, I have Van Yip. I've also just drawn the Avarosan Trapper. These cards combine exceedingly well with one another. As you may or may not know, the Avarosan Trapper, though understated by himself, shuffles you into the first top 3 cards of your deck, a 1-drop, a 5/5 Yeti. Now that Yeti is pretty beefy in and of itself, and you will draw it soon enough. But more notably, in this particular circumstance, it is a 1-drop, thus it will get buffed by Professor Van Yip. As far as the situation on board is concerned, you might have noticed that I refused to play Jury Rig, and I refused to play the Poro. You probably understand why. I really want to combine it with Professor Van Yip. I want to play as many of those 1-drops in a row alongside him as is possible. Thus, I've decided to take a tiny bit of damage, and I've decided to use my removal in order to keep some control of the board, rather than playing minions of my own, followers of my own, in order to handle it that way. Thankfully, I have the beam to take care of Draven. It would have become a menace otherwise. I am falling behind as far as the board is concerned, and the only thing keeping me afloat, so to speak, are my removal spells that I am burning desperately in order to get into that lovely scenario where I have Van Yip on the board, who hopefully will survive long enough to actually buff my followers. My opponent will attack with the Spider and the Scuttler. He may as well play the Spinning Axe to deal a tad more damage. I don't particularly care. That's just 3 points. That's minuscule. What I care a lot more about is the fact that I will have full mana at the start of the next turn and initiative. I will have the attack token. There are ways I can go about this. I could play Professor Van Yip right away, or I could play the Avarosan Trapper. The Avarosan Trapper puts something on the board right now, gives me the Yeti in the top 3 cards of my deck, gives me 1 spell mana for Jury Rig next turn, and gives me the opportunity to play at least 1 other 1-drop with Van Yip, thus securing me at least 2 1-drops. One, the Jury Rig for spell mana, and another of my choice, possibly the Yeti. The alternative, playing Van Yip now, would have been horrendously risky. Yes, I would have him right away, and next turn for 5 mana I could summon however many 1-drops I could muster, but before that I could potentially just lose him, having buffed absolutely nothing. The situation on the board is getting increasingly dire. Not only do I have to deal with that hulking monstrosity of a 6/3 with Overwhelm, but there's also Jinx to consider. The only way I can possibly reasonably expect to trade here and now is to shave off a single point of health from the 6/3 by playing the Kempang Shredder. Playing Van Yip first and then trying to buff a minion would have absolutely failed. I'd get the opportunity to block with Van Yip or not block at all, and just take a lot of Nexus damage. I decided against it. There are certainly advantages to my position. After all, I will have even more mana next turn, which means even more minions will get buffed as I play them after Van Yip. Not to mention the fact that I will get the attack token. I'll need to deal with the Saboteur somehow, but that ought to get fairly simple once I actually get my buffed 1-drops. And here is the Yeti.
Like this? Oh, I see.
I play Van Yip, and as long as he doesn't die immediately to some horrible, gruesome source of damage, as a response from my opponent,
Reporting in?
He will not. I am going to play the Yeti and thus buff it with Van Yip. Ludicrous. But of course, that's not the end.
For one of us at least.
Katarina doesn't necessarily put me in the best of moods. She is a threat I will have to deal with. However, with the Yeti on board, I have ways of dealing with threats. Almost all sorts of threats, including the mighty and terrifying Katarina. Of course, since I have a good thing going and I want to keep that good thing going, I am not going to attack with Van Yip, but I am going to attack with everything else, putting the threat of 13 points of damage onto the board, forcing my opponent to somehow mitigate it or face the horrible consequences, which he did. He ultimately decided against blocking with Katarina, or Jinx, or the Saboteur. I understand his reluctance, but I don't necessarily agree with his decision in the end. Yes, you do not want to lose a champion, or two, against a Poro or a Scuttler. You don't want to lose without even trading that lovely Saboteur, but you have to do something. He's on 7 health at this particular point. Yes, he has managed to build a reasonable enough board, but my situation is only getting better and better, as Van Yip continues to live and buff more and more minions. I take a 3-fall Academic instead of a 3-3 Polo with Challenger, because Challenger only works while attacking. I also don't cast Jinx for obvious reasons. A fall 3 champion, and a lovely one, is not what you want to use to block in such circumstances, as you have seen from my opponent. Speaking of blocking, I can do so extremely efficiently without really losing much of anything here. Even though my minions are cheap, plentiful, they are 1-drops that have been buffed impressively. I'm not going to use Van Yip for blocking purposes. Obviously, I am willing to take a bit of face damage. Notably, my opponent has attacked with Katarina. She's going to strike, get recalled, and can be played again, which means that he will get a second attack token if he does so, and can thus attack again if he chooses to. However, that is not going to accomplish much, because I still have plenty of blockers to choose from. He will also eventually run out of mana and will stop summoning Katarina, and as such, eventually I will get my attack token next turn. And since I have a Poro with a Challenger trait, I can just draw Katarina to the Poro and mercilessly murder her. But that has not come to pass since my opponent has decided to surrender. Wisely, thanks for watching, and you will see me elsewhere.